And that's honestly why most companies fail. It's not the science, it's because they made some mistake forming the company or running the company, and they never even get to the point at which the science could be the reason why they fail.
Well, I feel like especially in therapeutic space, the only real test is like the clinical POC, and vast majority of things never get to even ask that question.
Oh yeah, we always make the joke, like companies who do well, like, oh, we put the therapy and therapeutics, like all of our people are always talking to each other and like seeing how they feel, and like,
Yeah.
and that culture thing is like really what matters for the companies.
Yeah. Well, Adam, thanks for coming to Boba Biotech. How are you liking your first time Heytea?
Fantastic. Never had like a milk tea like based boba before.
Wait, which ones had you been having?
Not like the milk based ones, just like the fruit based.
Oh.
So the first like actual milk one.
Well, this one's like coconut milk, I think. Yeah, it's good.
It's good stuff.
So just to get some background on you, like you've been in the incubator space for a while, like what got you into the side? What's your backstory? What originally drew you into this stuff?
Yeah, so came to Boston to get my PhD, genetics from Boston College. As one wants to do in Boston, once you come here for science, you never really leave unless you have to.
Yep.
Went into industry at first, went over to Biogen. I was over there for about 7 years, ran their AI team there when they first started, back before it was AI, and it was just nerds doing data stuff with computers. And then ended up going up to the corporate strategy team initially, kind of at the tail end of that, where I started working with a lot of due diligence with startups, just working with a lot of founders from that side of things. Really started liking how fast they moved compared to us.
Yeah.
The conversation of here's a contract, they get it back to me in 24 hours, and I say, I'll get it back to you in 2 months when it clears all illegal.
Yeah.
So very quickly, I was like, this is this pace that I would rather be at. So I've been, working with startups for about 5 years now and wouldn't change it.
What drew you into specifically like BioLabs and the, LabCentral network and all those things?
I mean, just like the breadth of everyone that you get to meet. I mean, if you're in Boston or now, internationally, they, BioLabs, LabCentral, NBC BioLabs, they have a hand in almost every startup in some way, shape, or form. It's kind of being formed. So, to be in that just ecosystem, it's just nice to be around that many different founders, that many different players from sponsors and pharma partners. So to be in the ecosystem, it's kind of a no-brainer. So when you get that opportunity, you kind of jump at that if it pops up.
Yeah. And for people that are less familiar with what your day-to-day might look like, because I know when we were in an incubator at the start, I would be like, oh, what do these schmucks know about science and what we do? They're just providing us glorified rental space and we'll keep going. Like, what are the parts that people don't normally see or appreciate about what your guys' life really involves?
Yeah, we work much closer with most founders than people anticipate. Whether it's understanding the science, knowing what their milestones are, work a lot with first-time founders around what their story is and how they pitch that and how they should work with different investors and all those different things. So, it's everything from, of course, working with the lab and the operations side, but also, working on the strategy with those companies of how they get to their next milestones.
Yeah.
And because we see so many different founders, we can provide insights of here's what's in favor and out of favor and those type of things when they're going through that journey.
Yeah. And I think a lot of what was always helpful is that people come out of academia oftentimes with all this infrastructure that they didn't realize how much it costs to have. And then when they're out in the wild, they're like, oh crap, like where am I going to get a flow cytometer? Where am I going to get a microscope? And then
if it breaks, where do you go to fix it? Yeah,
exactly. Yep. Who's going to maintain my EHS stuff and all that? So what are some of the most challenging parts of running an incubator though? Like what are the pieces that people don't see or they don't anticipate, but you think are like some of the roughest parts?
The pace at which things go. I mean, companies spin up and spin down incredibly fast and you don't always know why, or sometimes the founders don't even know why if it's an investor decision. That's always just really, really difficult. Also, because the science changes so quickly as well, you're trying to plan a space and a product that supports founders that you don't know what the science is going to be. Yeah. So we can make bets on what we think we should equip the space with or how we should augment the space, but we also are making bets on what the science is going to do 2 or 3 years down the road. Luckily, we see most of the science before any investor or anyone else does.
Yeah.
But that being said, things change, as we've seen over the last 2 or 3 years, very, very quickly. So that's really, really difficult to do.
And when you say you guys are making those long-term bets, do you mean that it's by bringing them in and reserving space for them later, or giving price breaks, like thinking that
it's that, but it's also the scientific. So it's, if we're going to invest in a piece of equipment, if we're selling gene therapy, right? We're going to invest $250,000 in that piece of equipment because we think those are the type of companies that we're going to see and we're going to support.
Yeah.
You're making that bet, but very quickly, as we've seen, CGT can change very, very quickly and is no longer in fashion and vogue. So an investment that you've made might not have been the right one to support the companies that you've seen. So from an infrastructure standpoint, we're making those bets. But also, sometimes it is working with companies, where people are coming in with money and we think that, hey, we're going to start to reserve space for their growth, and they don't end up growing, then that's also from a business side thing.
What percentage of the companies actually get their growth projections right?
Very, very low. 5% maybe.
And I feel like it's almost, they never grow as fast as they thought. Or is it both sides? Like
they spin down faster than they ever thought they could. Things happen very, very quickly. So everything is rainbows and roses until it's, they hold on to it until the very last second, then everything kind of drops out. So they spin down very, very quickly.
Okay.
Sometimes people spin up faster than they think. And I think a lot of times they're not prepared for how much it's going to take to do all the science and all the middle management that they didn't think they would need. So sometimes I think they hire faster than they think that they're going to have to, and they're not prepared for that.
Yeah.
But rarely do they have that 2 or 3 year timeline correct in their mind.
Well, at least you get both sides of the excitement that they.
Oh yeah.
They crash faster than they thought.
Hopefully they balance each other out, so it's exactly where we thought they would be. Just we don't know in which way that happens.
What are the kinds of things that you think you guys get to see that, like, let's say the VCs have much less of an appreciation for?
Honestly, how much of like a team effort it is. I think that the VCs often they work with the founders and the C-suite, and they don't see how much of the science is driven by the scientists who are actually at the bench doing that. And I think sometimes, VCs will ask questions, in a board meeting around the science, and the answers won't come through. And it's because the C-suite doesn't exactly know how the decision was made. So I think that a lot of the, even the scientist ones and twos and things like that who aren't in those conversations, they make a lot of decisions that aren't ever seen, or they don't make their way up through the reporting lines. I think a second thing is the impact that a poor hire makes from that same level. Yeah. A lot of them think of like how you're going to hire out your C-suite and the support structure on that level. But the people who are actually doing the work has such a bigger impact on, if you hire a bad scientist one, you might not think it makes a big deal, but that can easily waste, 6 months of runway, and, that's who's getting all the results. So
yeah, I feel like on the board side or investor side, they just don't, most of them, don't get it, how much depends on those 2 first scientists you have, and whether or not they're great, good, or mediocre. And that alone will make a massive difference in what happens. Why do you think that gap exists? Because I agree, they're so focused on how well does our CSO speak? As opposed to is this shit actually working or not?
When you're raising initially, it is a sales game. You are telling a story, you're selling the story. You haven't necessarily had to act upon that story yet. You haven't had to show the results. So until you actually have to tell the results, everyone's still thinking of how well does that story play. Yeah. I mean, and that's the CEO's job, is to tell the story, raise money, make sure the company's going in the right direction. And, that's their job. But at some point, that thought process has to switch to what does that operational efficiency look like? And sometimes it just happens too late in the game, when in actuality, you have to start thinking that, like you said, that you only get one first hire, and that can make a huge difference on the trajectory of the company from day one. And they haven't done science in a long time, if at all. True. Some of the investors, so they don't even think about what that does for them.
Totally good. And I feel like it's so easy for the C-levels to get distracted with they're constantly running around pitching. So God, I just hope the scientists are doing what they're supposed to do, as opposed to making sure it's all running smoothly. And then what about kind of your guys' visibility on, let's say, team culture and team dynamics? Because I feel like sometimes that alone can be a reason it sinks. You might have 2 brilliant scientist ones, but man, do they not get along. What interesting adventures have you had there?
everyone wants the A players and they play a role, but the B and the C players who are also doing work have just the same impact on the company culture in terms of sometimes you need a technician just to do the work, but they have the same impact on the culture as the people at the top. They're all interacting with each other at the same time. So making sure that just like everyone gets along. I don't want to call it personality hire because I think that's the wrong way of doing it, but like just making sure that everyone gets along. Because if everyone has each other's backgrounds doing everything in the lab that they should be, again, that just accelerates everything at such a faster pace than you would think. Whereas then if everyone's acting individually, it just doesn't help. And I would say that's the biggest reason why most companies have issues is that things just start to stagnate because no one's talking, no one's doing what they're supposed to, and it's just not a true team. And if you only have 5 people, then that's 40% of your company. It doesn't get along quickly.
If you and your team were like having drinks, making bets on like, oh, those guys are going to make it, those guys are definitely going to die. What are like the features that stand out to you? And how good do you think your predictability is there?
It has gotten very good over the course of the years. These are not hypothetical conversations that are had. We have these conversations very quickly because we're, like I said, we're also making bets on who we think is going to work out. Culture is a big one. If we see that a company works together really, really well, that they're going to succeed very, very well. Another one is what the founders are like. Either if you have co-founders or single founders. Co-founders have a much bigger chance of success than just single solo founders. And that's because one person can't do everything. We tell every scientist who becomes a founder, you're no longer going to be doing the science. You have too much other stuff to worry about. So it's the founder, it's the company culture. And honestly, I hate to say this, but the age of the founder themselves. Most successful founders are, you know, in their mid 30s, 40s. There's a reason for that, whether they're in their 20s, because there's just so much to learn. And nowadays, everyone with Nucleate and everything, everyone's always very much like, you know, you should come right out of your PhD and be a founder. It's incredibly hard to do that because you just don't know enough. So that bright-eyed, bushy-tail is fantastic, and we'd love to see it. And you might be able to get a first check, but the chances they get a second check are low.
It reminds me of because like we were one of those bright-eyed, bushy-tailed ones for Squeeze. When we were IPOing, there was a reporter that was interviewing me, and he's like, "Yeah, I met you guys back when you were in the incubator at the VDC." I'm like, "Oh, really?" He's like, "Yeah." Honestly, normally going to these things, it's like you're going to the pound, like you're like, oh, these animals are doomed, but they're so cute. And he's like, I can't think of a single one that made it. So it's really weird for me. That you guys
I mean, it's not saying that. I think that one thing that we've started to do in science and just academics, as academics have just gotten harder to survive in, it's no longer kind of the fun thing that it used to be being a professor, is that scientists who love science have looked for off-roads where they can still do research and they can make a product. But I think just too many people are starting to make products out of research where it doesn't necessarily fit. Not every research project from university should go and become a product. So I think that's another reason why a lot of people fail is they try and turn research that should just be basic research into a company that has no legs to it.
Many people on the outside may not see as like what I would call these kind of like zombie biotechs where they're stuck at a certain number of people. I don't know, that's some sub 10 number, and they just like keep existing. But the poor guys like never gain enough momentum to ever truly break out of it. They never truly starve to death. So they just have this really weird state of existence for years. Like, what do you think? Why does that happen?
The great thing about incubators is that it makes it cheap to get going and it's capital efficient. At the same time, it also makes it cheap and capital efficient to prolong that runway as much as possible. I think it happens because, again, a lot of people fall in love with the science and the company and never take a step back and say, is this going to, really work? Usually I say with most biotechs, if there's not traction within 2 or 3 years, the chances of something materially happening that's going to change the trajectory is rare. It doesn't happen that often. Ever so often, a company in year 4 or 5 will get an ARPA-H grant and, that'll change the trajectory, but it doesn't happen that often. And people have to understand, there's nothing wrong with holding a company or shelving it. But I also think that's also responsibilities for whoever the investors are. The investors should also be pressuring to say, let's return capital. Let's shelf this IP for maybe a later time when science changes and we can, resurrect it. They just persist because they don't know anybody. There's no one pressuring them to fold. So
do you think the zombies are more likely to happen when it's like, I don't know, these professional biotech VC types involved, or when they're more bootstrapped? Or is it the same probability?
If they're self-funded, they actually persist much longer because again, they have that ownership that they never want to give up. So they just persist because they really want it to work.
Yeah.
And then on the opposite side, I think that the ones who have a lot of funding, the VCs are smart about it. And they understand, okay, we're going to fold this. We're going to return the capital faster than. So it's usually the early ones or the ones who maybe get like a $5 million check right off the bat. So they can grow and then they can get enough data to where it's interesting, but not far enough to where it's ever going to make any huge difference.
That was one of those ones that I think on the founder side, if you were in those shoes, I think the challenge is like, there's that next risk you can take that might be deadly and it'll be an embarrassing death or a flame out, but it also might be the thing that saves you and gets you to the next step. And I think many people won't take those leaps because they're too afraid of the flaming, like headline worthy death. And so they're like, I'd just rather die slowly than ever take a risk.
And like you said, oftentimes you can't do the experiments that you need to on a shoestring budget a lot of these times. You need to make and just say, we're going to go all in on this study. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. That's totally fine. Let the science be the one that kills you. Don't let it be the business side that kills you. And that'll always be the right way to go.
Yeah, because I think like people always underestimate the value of time. And so they think if I spent my last, whatever, 100K on that swing for the fences, that'll be a bad idea. I might as well spend it existing for 3 more months in case there's like a beautiful lightning strike or something. I'm like, well, it's not going to happen.
Nope. And imagine what you can do with the other 3 months, while it's already, buttoned up and, you're on to your next thing. So.
Yeah, exactly. And then for collaboration stuff inside incubators, like I think in series, some incubators will pitch that you can collaborate across companies that are in the same space. How often do you think that actually happens?
Research tool companies, yes, such as yourself. I mean, I think research tools make it a lot easier. I think that everyone's a little too in their own bubbles oftentimes to realize everything else that's around them. And I don't think that's a bad thing because that is your company. That is, what you're there to do. And that is kind of your sole reason for doing this. But taking a step back and saying, okay, hey, I got 30 companies around me and a lot of smart individuals that we could see, hey, maybe they can do something for me that's cheaper and that they have the ability to, that if I were to have to do it, it'd be, 5x the cost. Being able to do that, I think is missed a lot of times. So if you're a therapeutic company, I don't think it happens that often. And I think it's purely just because people are in their own little bubbles in their worlds trying to do things. Networks as a whole, if you have like BioLabs where we have a bunch of different sites, it helps a lot when people move around, like the exposure to the different cities. It really makes a difference. You can kind of see how different ecosystems think and where their strengths and weaknesses. But again, it all comes down to like how much that founder is willing to be honest and say, what, I'd love to go to another founder and say, I need help and, I could have support. But you will rarely see a founder say that to another founder that they need help until, they get to a certain self, honesty level that most people never get to.
Have you guys tried to have activities where you bring the founder types together and it's just like it never goes anywhere usually?
We have, and it really depends on who's like the facilitator of those conversations. The conversations between founders usually always goes back to the same cores, like how's your fundraising? What are you doing? What are you doing differently? How's your team? Who you talk to that's interesting.
Oh, this VC won't take your calls. Mine either.
Do you have any soft introductions you can provide me? It's always very transactional, and it's not. They never take the next step into the weeds. So it's like, we're trying to do this experiment. Have you done it? Could you help us out? Like, it's always the scientists that have those conversations. And then they have to try and work, communicate up to try and get the CEOs to allow it. So it just doesn't happen as much as you would hope it is. But the ones who do, again, that's one of those things where if people are willing to have that conversation, their likelihood of success is much, much higher.
Do you think part of the reason they won't have those discussions is like people worry about IP contamination and like they'll try to put too much paperwork around doing a joint experiment of some sort?
Not really. I don't see it. Honestly, in the 16 years we've been doing this, we rarely see IP as an issue between two companies.
Yeah.
IP can be solved fairly quickly around.
But do you think they see it as an issue?
Younger founders, yes. Yeah. Younger founders will see the IP as, I need to protect my IP at all costs.
Right.
More experienced founders will say, we'll let the lawyers deal with it and, we can figure out a way to make this work, that type of thing. IP is worthless if there's nothing that's worth.
If you're dead, what does it matter?
Yeah, if you're dead, the IP is worth nothing. Yes, for younger founders and first-time founders, but it's usually just that self-awareness portion.
If you were trying to do a startup today, like seeing this movie so many times, what are the kinds of things that you would want to make damn sure you're doing? Like, what would you be doing differently from what you see around you?
Co-founders. Number one, make it a co-founder. Have someone focus on the business who loves to tell a story, who loves to, get in front of the investors, go out to the dinners, do everything that they need to, that type of person.
Yeah.
And then someone who loves the science. Make those two different co-founders and make them responsible for those things.
Yeah.
Makes that just so much easier for a company to run. I don't think they have to be co-founders, but it could be a CEO and a CSO and, something where it's delineated.
Yeah.
Those companies are just so much more successful and run so much better. The amount of scientists who try and do HR and the operations and that is what causes the issue in the company. That should never be the issue why a company goes under.
Yeah.
So co-founders is a big one. The second one is honestly just look at who's being invested in.
Yeah.
If you think that you have such a great idea and you've never seen someone be invested in that area, chances are that that's going to continue. And there's a reason for that. And you might just not know it. So a lot of people, when they have novel ideas and they say, no one's ever done this is going to be a reason. The old adage of if you're the only person doing it, it's probably not the right idea.
Yeah.
That's true. That happens all the time. So, it should be novel enough where people can understand it, but not novel enough where no one understands it or it's never been funded before. And the third one is really invest in non-dilutive funding. So many people want that validation of a VC or an angel gave me cash and they believe in me. I would rather the government believe in me and give me 10 million than have an individual believe in me and give me $1 million and take 25% of my company. Non-dilutive is zero. I still think that the companies who get those investments in non-dilutive and are able to make those scientific strides with more or less free capital. There's rarely anything tied to it. That should be at the forefront of everyone's thought process when you're starting a company.
And your emphasis on the co-founder stuff, how often do you see differences and fights between them leading to kind of a breakup? Because I guess the versions of this I would have seen more of early on would be you had a classic MBA type and a classic PhD type try to get together and do something. And most times that would not really work out so well.
Yes. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, like a match-made pairing type of situation. Yeah. But, it can be two scientists where, hey, me and my friend, we both went to grad school together. We both love science. But I love the business of science and they love the scientific bench side of science, where those types of people work great together because they've already been together. They both know that they understand the science, but just someone's intuition towards the business side of things and just understanding that and being able to tell the story is just invaluable.
Yeah.
Trying to do almost like a blind dating way of doing it, it's really difficult to make those two people work. So if there's any type of just historical interactions and working together, that always works. So when people come out of pharma together, you know, hey, we worked at Pfizer together for 15 years. Now we're going to start something. They usually work really, really well because, again, they both understand the business. They understand the science, but just one person loves the business more and one person loves the science more.
Yeah.
And they can still talk to each other like they would, like they both know everything. But if you do it where it's an MBA and a PhD, they don't talk the same language. They never had that shared history together.
Well, that's the thing. Sometimes for the earlier career people, they don't even themselves yet know what they're going to be good at or what they're not good at. Because their only reference points, for example, if they were both PhDs, is doing science. So one of them might think they're going to like the business of science. But once they do it, they're like, you know what, actually, no.
It happens all the time. I mean, I think we can both say that. We were both did PhDs.
Yeah.
I don't think either of us thought we were going to end up where we were. And
No.
it happened organically.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like making sure that you understand who your co-founder is and not just, oh, they went to HBS, they've got what I need.
They must be able to raise money.
No, yeah, right. That's not how it works. So yeah, just making sure that you can like talk and understand each other is worth more than anything.
And what are the success and failure modes that you observe in this kind of, let's say, 1 person to 20, 25 people phase that you think are very different when it comes to, like, let's say these companies are 50 people plus, like the features they have that may actually be important for them to get things going in the smaller scale, but it starts to flip later, whether or not that was a good characteristic.
In terms of people or just how they're run?
Both.
In how they run, early on, companies tend to hold on to a lot of things really, really tightly throughout the entire chain, from management all the way down to the lowest member. Mm-hmm. Everyone's really, really tightly held onto whatever they're doing. And so if that persists up to a certain point, like in a 50-person company, everyone can't try and hold on to everything or just doesn't. Everything just falls apart. It's a really, really fragile company structure. Yeah. So early on, as much as people are just, hey, you can do that project. Like, I'm not going to oversee you necessarily, like oversee you, but I'm not going I'm not going to, work over your shoulder. Like, the way that can persist when you're further on, and then just like that delineation between like, what are you doing, what I'm doing, I'm going to trust you to do that type of stuff. Once you get to 50 people, if that's not there by that time, it's really hard to grow beyond that stage. Yep. And again, usually when I say like you raise like your first big Series A or so, that has to switch between the CEO knows everything that's going on or the CSO knows everything to, I think I know everyone in the company, but I don't know their names totally, and I don't know exactly what they're doing, and that's okay. Yeah. Just having that culture where, you are now grown, and that's just the way that companies have to work in order to grow. Yeah. That's one that I always see. People who hold on too tightly often don't get past that 10 to 12.
I totally didn't try to do that back in the day.
Yeah. How'd that work out?
I had to learn to let go. Yeah. Cause I think it was around 70 that I'm like, shit, I don't know everything that's going on. Like, no matter how late I stay up, I can't read every experimental plan or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it reached a point I'm like, all right, I guess I'm just going to stop reading some of these.
I mean, that's the whole point of hiring people. Yeah. If you're going to hire people, let them do that.
I may say trust but verify, but I was really hardcore on the verification step.
Yep. It's a scientist. It's a scientist.
I eventually let go. Yeah. I was like, all right, we just got to let it flow and see what happens. Is there like piece of advice for the founder side that you feel like they wouldn't hear from other sources, but you would really want to pound into their heads?
Things that they won't hear. Things that they don't hear or don't want to hear.
Both.
Okay. You're not ready yet. There are a lot of founders who, because they'll get a little bit of money, they get a $2 million check and they say, great, I have to go after this. When's the next time I'm going to get the money? Having that offer of capital doesn't mean you have to take it. And often can be like more detrimental to you to taking that money. Yeah. Rather than I'm going to develop my skill set. I'm going to go to a large pharma, and a lot of people say like, why would you ever go to a large pharma? You're only going to work on one little thing. But you can understand how the machine works. And there's a reason why the machines work that way, because there's so many different things that go into it. So, because you can always go back and say, okay, now I understand this much better, and I know where I would have gone wrong if I would have taken that capital. Yeah. It's hard to build the train while it's going in a biotech. You kind of have to have a plan of where you're going to go before you start going. And I think if more people turned down that capital and just took 2 or 3 years to really understand what they were going to get into, they would.
What do you think are the telltale signs that they can point to themselves or point out to themselves? Because like when you tell them they're not ready.
If you are so overly exuberant to take that capital, like we're going to do this. Yeah. And you don't have like an inkling of things are going to go wrong. Oh yeah. You probably shouldn't be taking the money. Yeah. Because you can probably say like CEO's main thing is always thinking about what could go wrong. Yeah. And like trying to figure out ways around that.
Yeah. You got to be ultra paranoid.
Yeah, exactly. If you're staying up at night, just thinking about all the possibilities, you're probably not going to make it because you don't understand the risk mitigation strategies that you need.
Right.
So to take those and just like internalize them and understand where those risks are is just, it's beyond useful in any realm when you're making a science. So again, if you're taking capital and you're not thinking about the risks other than like, oh, the company could go under or someone could make fun of me, that's not a real risk. The real risk is someone's going to be asking me for, money back, when they're going to try and claw back their money when you get a certain amount. So that's a big one. So I wish that most founders would take that to heart and think about that. Number two, what I often see is whatever your personality is with the team will filter down to like that lowest individual. So if you're paranoid, that's going to go down to like your lowest person who's going to be in a tissue culture hood, who's also paranoid about every single thing they do. So making sure that however you want to build that culture, you also embody it. Yeah. Because if you're in a company or a team of 10 people, everyone's going to look up for what that culture is going to look like. And if it's not what it should be, that'll just permeate throughout everything right away. Yeah. So a lot of people always think about the science and they don't like to think about just like the business and the basic social aspects of how it's going to run. Yeah. And that's honestly why most companies fail. It's not the science, it's because they made some mistake forming the company or running the company, and they never even get to the point at which the science could be the reason why they fail.
Well, I feel like especially in therapeutic space, the only real test is like the clinical POC, and vast majority of things never get to even ask that question.
Oh yeah. We always make the joke, like companies who do well, like, oh, we put the therapy in therapeutics, like all of our people are always talking to each other and like seeing how they feel. And like, and that culture thing is like really what matters for the companies. Yeah. Because people always ask, like, how do these companies get bought after 2 or 3 years? Yeah. Like, I haven't even gotten my first major check after 2 or 3 years. And it's, well, they knew exactly what they were doing. They knew the risks. They knew what story they needed to tell. Yeah. It's not a mistake that they got the funding and the purchase. Like, there was a plan behind it. Yeah. So I wish that more founders just knew that type of thing.
For the incubator space model, like, are there things about it that you think should really evolve over this next like decade of time?
The incubator space itself has gotten a little overgrown over the last maybe like 5 years.
Specifically in Boston or more broadly?
Boston for sure, San Diego. Yeah. I mean, the major hubs, you know. I think that people conflated incubator spaces with a cheap ticket to, a large payout. And that's not necessarily the case. You still need to put in the work. Like, it's a capital efficient way to get things. Yeah. But it's not a sure thing. And it doesn't mean that you're going to succeed in any way. And it doesn't mean that everyone should start a company just because you have the capital to do that. Yeah. So I think that in the incubator space, I think we have to be really, really confident. And I think we saw this in 2021, 2022, when there was so much capital in the system that everyone was getting money, everyone was starting companies. I think now we finally weeded most of those companies out, and that dumb money that was around just kind of faded away. To where now we're saying, okay, a couple incubators, a couple companies are really going to start coming together to just like making like true hubs of incubation. Yeah. Kind of to what it was like before. So I think that we just need to evolve a little bit more than the way that we have over the last 5 years. And I think that is expanding to non-traditional places in the US and globally to where people can start companies. Yeah. I don't think it has to be in Boston. It can be in Chicago, it can be in France, it can be in Singapore. Yeah. And I think that's the way that we should probably do it. It's just a matter of we need to figure out ways to make that model work. If you only have 30 companies in an ecosystem, what does that incubator model look like? Yeah. Comparatively to Boston, where you have 600 that you can, support you. So I think the model just has to evolve over time as companies evolve as well. Like, how do you offer more to those companies that need the help? Some people come in and they say, I just need lab space. Yeah. You don't need help with science. We got that. I just need help with space and that. But some companies, like I said, come in and they say, you've seen 400 companies over the last year. Tell me what's working, what's not, and just figuring out like how that works in a non-traditional sense. Because like I said, we've got enough incubators in the world from, I'll call them accelerators, enough accelerators of like, how do you make a business plan? How do you make a pitch? All that stuff. But incubator should just be for operationalizing. Like, how do you really commercialize and operationalize that idea?
What would be the Adam stat on what percentage of companies that go into an incubator space are actually successful later?
So I can say for BioLabs, we're at 14%.
Okay.
14.2%, if you want the number. That's any company that's gone public or has like a major M&A event.
Okay.
I guess it depends on the incubator, honestly.
Yeah.
If you're diligent and you can kind of tell like which companies are going to be successful and you can support them and you're making the correct bets on them and supporting them, it should be high. But as you said, there are some incubators and just places in general, they'll take anyone. Hey, you have the money to do it. Please come in.
Yeah.
We won't ask questions. It's much more of a realty play than anything else. Whereas for us, we're much more like, how can we actually help you get to that point with introductions and all that type of stuff? But yeah, I know some places it's much lower.
Yeah. I was going to say, you guys might as well just start taking equity in them instead.
I have made that argument before and not going to happen.
Is it more like the incubator management types don't want to take equity, or normally the companies don't want to give it?
I don't think we should take equity. If you start to take equity in incubators, you start to play favorites. That's true. We'd much rather be like, everyone's going to be treated the same.
Yeah.
Sure, if you're growing larger and I'm going to work closer with you, like, yeah, you're going to probably get a couple things that smaller companies wouldn't get. But it's really important to just say, like, everyone will have the same chance here. Again, you as a CEO and the founder, you're the one who's going to make the ultimate decision about whether you fail or succeed. Yeah. We're just here to make sure that
we're not giving you premium snacks.
That the operation, the snacks, that you're fed appropriately. But then, like, the operations and everything, like, that isn't going to be the reason that you fail.
Last question. If you had a magic wand you could wave and change whatever you want about the biotech ecosystem, what would you change?
More repurposing. I think that we don't, as an ecosystem, repurpose enough things. I think that a lot of things get shelved and never get thought of again.
Like technologies and molecules.
Technologies, molecules, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Because I always look back, I know that AI is the hot thing, but like neural nets and everything, those are around in their 50s, 60s, 70s. They're not new, but it's just, okay, we figured out a way to repurpose them. And once we have a final technology, I really think that we're going to start getting to a point where when we can start to do, of course we can do screens and things like that, but now that we've got a little bit more like Lego type ability to build and play some things, that we can start bringing back and making better bets on things that we've already known.
Yeah.
Because things don't get to phase 3 without some inkling that they worked for some reason. It might have just been like, hey, we don't have the technology to really refine it as much as we need.
Yeah.
Or we don't know who the correct cohort was. Now we're at the point where I think that we should start repurposing and looking back on things. That would be a really good bet. I know that there are companies who are starting to do that and have raised money off it. But I still think like there's just like no way to figure out things that have been shelved yet, or that things that have been shelved and no one ever finds out for some reason. So just like that openness and more than just like consortia between people to find things, but like true. Here's something
why do you think enough of that repurposing doesn't already happen? I agree with you, but I'm like, why do you think it doesn't happen?
IP is a big one. I mean, no one wants to tell. I mean, you can tell a lot by a company of like what they're creating and what point they got to. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of like saying like, hey, come behind the sheet and let me show you where we ended up failing and screwing up. So that's kind of a hard thing to do for a lot of people. And I think there's no like singular way to find out, like I said, everything that has ever failed. I'll say some companies, large biotechs, they'll have data rooms and they'll say, hey, we're willing to sell off assets. Go talk to one of our banking partners and you can take a look at all of our assets that we have. But like, there's no like easy way to figure that out. So again, if there's a way to just like look at failed molecules, but also have all the data behind it, I think it'd be way more.
Do you think, I mean, I would biasly say like, isn't some of it a marketability issue too? Like it's just unsexy to go pitch like, hey, remember that thing that happened 5 years ago that was not viewed as a success? We actually think we got it figured out. Can you please give us flashy levels of money to go do it?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. It's not a fun story to tell.
Yeah.
It's a boring story to tell.
Yeah.
I hope that the investors are smart enough to say like, yeah, it's boring, but so is washing cars and that's worth a lot of money to a lot of people.
Well, I think also for them, it's the issue of like, if they bet a second time on something that failed the first time, they will look like a fool in a preventable way.
Yep. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. That's
Whereas if it was like a totally novel thing and it didn't work out, like, how would we have known?
And that's okay. I think if more funds, they're very much of, I'm going to invest in 20 companies and X amount of follow on, is going to be reserved. They started saying, hey, you know what? We're going to have 10% for
resuscitations,
for resuscitations, for reintroductions of things. I think that would go like a really far way and could be really, really good for, kind of just how we think about things overall.
Any other questions we didn't ask or topics that you think we should cover?
If I hear one more AI biotech company, I'm going to lose it.
We're going to talk about that.
There are just so many out there, and no one can differentiate like what their views are. That I think it's just like a muddied water.
I mean, it's super trendy. Do you think it's because tech money, because biotech money is scarce and tech money is so abundant that anything that touches that border, they're like, oh man, just give us some of your...
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of like Dunning-Kruger effect, where there are people who get really successful in the tech industry.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, this is going to translate over to knowledge and science. Like those are two totally different things that, one has technology and biotechnology, but they are not related.
They don't work the same.
No, they don't work the same at all. So I think like, there is a lot of easy money in that way in San Francisco and some other places, just where people want to get involved in that. And that's great. And we need people to fund that. But the differentiation between a lot of the companies, it's just not there yet. Like it's really hard to make smart bets on those companies because everything seems, the changes are so minute that you don't see, like, we haven't seen real big changes in how drugs are found or produced because there hasn't been like a material difference. And yet everyone still keeps getting funded for it.
Do you think most of them are going to have to end up becoming asset companies, whether or not they like it?
Yeah, 100%. Yep. They're going to have to.
Because with the amounts they've raised.
Yeah, it's going to have to, they're going to have to just either start being an asset factory, and that's what they do, and they're not going to, create them in-house and just sell them off early, or service providers in a way, where they're just providing.
Do you think as a service provider, they'll ever make a return on the amount of money that was invested in them?
Not if you don't start from the beginning.
Because I feel like often they've they have like $100 million they've spent before they even try to monetize it. And then at that point, it's very hard to make it work.
It's a last ditch pivot to, how can we get some money back? I think that one way in which it has changed is people thinking long-term more about the assets that they're creating from like the AI platforms. So in like 2015, when the first kind of tranche of capital was released around like AI and biotech, it was very blue sky. And they're like, here's $100 million. Let me know.
Have fun.
Like, let me know what the output is. I can't wait to see what this is.
Yeah.
And then nothing came out within 3 or 4 years. So then that dried up. And now we're kind of back into it where everyone's like, oh, maybe now we're at the time where we can start doing, generative AI and things to create things. I have a feeling that 2017, 2018, it's going to be the same dip.
Yeah.
Because it's not the creation of the molecules that take a long time. It's the D side of things that takes so much longer than that research side.
Yeah, and I think the main failure mode is like phase 1 tox.
Yep.
And there isn't enough data to feed any kind of model to tell you like, oh, this small molecule is going to cause massive toxicity. This one's going to be a blockbuster. It's just like too little is known. Okay, that's a good one. Any other topics you had in mind?
No.
All right.
That's a lot.
Good stuff. Thank you, sir.
No
Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for coming.